Gaming shortcut keyboards are coming out, many different brands. We have the original Stream Deck, and now we have these companion modules for other companies, including a company called Fifine, which makes microphones and audio interfaces. Of course, they wanted to create their own little device that actually will work with all of their infrastructure, and that's what this is. This is the Ampligame D6, a 15-button deck for whatever you need for your computer, your Mac, or your PC. And what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at it. We're going to install it really quick, put on some buttons, and see what we can do. And we're going to do that next on Geekazine. What's up, my geeks? Jeffrey Powers from Geekazine, Think Magazine, Put in a Geek. Now, Fifine did send me the Ampligame to review, but they are not sponsoring this video, and all opinions are of my own. I have a review section over at geekazine.com/review where you can check that out. And if you've got a product that you want me to review, all you have to do is contact me there. So I'd like to thank my Patreons for being a part of the show. If you'd like to be a part of the Patreon, help out the channel, go over to patreon.com/Geekazine. And of course, if you'd like to tip me, all you have to do is one-time tip over at venmo.com/Geekazine. All right, so what is this? This is the Fifine Ampligame 15-button deck, which allows you to connect up multiple apps, whether you're on a Mac or on a PC. I'm not sure if there's a Linux version. I don't think there is. But if you're doing any type of gaming, let's say you've got a Fifine microphone, let's say you've got a Fifine audio deck or anything like that, these are the devices that this thing will excel best in. So if you're into and you are purchasing a lot of Fifine infrastructure, this 15-button deck is going to become something that's very important to what you're doing. It's got some limitations. We're going to talk about that in a minute, but let's go ahead and take a look at the deck itself, because it does have some really cool features I do like. To begin with, we've got 15 buttons. They're nice. They're fairly large. If you look to, as opposed to like a Stream Deck, the Stream Deck buttons are just a little bit smaller, but it uses the same technology. So basically, there's a computer screen that's behind these buttons. And then, of course, a little capacitive button right here that when you press it down, it'll do something. So you have a little tactile feel with these buttons. 15, so we got 5x3 here, allows you to put a lot of different things on. Right now, we're not seeing anything. If I was to turn off the Fifine control deck here. All right, so we unplugged it and plugged it back in. This is what you're going to see when you first plug it into your Mac, into your PC. Basically does nothing but turn on and off and tell you that this is the D6 control deck from Fifine. Simple as that. But it's when, of course, when you start using the software and putting it on, that's where you get all the control. The button, like I said, 15 buttons here. The one difference that you see from some of the other decks is it's got an LED light around it, wrapped around it, and it's got a button in back. We've got USB-C, and then a button. And of course, it's a USB-C to C cable with an adapter that's affixed to one side. So if you've got USB-A, you can use the adapter. That's the USB-C. We've also got this button. This button will change the lighting that you have there. As you can see, I just changed it to a purple. We're going to press it again. And now we've got a nice little rainbow color going on. If we don't want the light, we just simply hold it down and it turns itself off. Hold it down again to turn it back on. No other buttons or anything else on this, so very straightforward. You could set it, I have it set, of course, right next to my MacBook Air. All right, let's talk for a minute here about AE Juice. I am now an affiliate of AE Juice, in where I'm taking this content and making my videos better, and you could do the same thing too, from LUTs to sound effects to transitions to even AI elements and a lot more. You can bring a whole ton of stuff in. You're seeing that as we're going. You can check that out over at geekazine.com/AE Juice for the free starter pack. Of course, there's many other packs over at AE Juice. You can check that out over there, but geekazine.com/AE Juice. Now let's get back into the content. Once we install the software and put on the Fifine control deck software, we'll notice that what it'll do is once it loads up, this will disappear, and now we've got a completely blank slate. That's where this software comes into play. Let's take a look at the software really quick. There's the control deck software. This is once again on a Mac. and it's going to look it's going to look the same on the PC. We can choose our device, and basically this is the D6. We're just going to leave it as that, and it's showing us 15 buttons down here. If they had a larger button or a smaller button version, I would guess that you would then see that device in the drop-down list, and then it would show you the button list. That way, if you connect up 2 or 3 Ampligame, I'm guessing that you'll be able to see that through there. Up on the left, just like with the Stream Deck, we have the same looking software here. So, but on the left, we have a couple different things. The first one, this blue button up here, is going to take us to their store where we can add more apps if we want to. The second button is basically their forum. If you need any help, they have a tutorial section. And then, of course, the settings. We're going to go to the settings first of all. So we've got multiple languages here. We're going to stick with English. We've got power on and minimize options. So basically, when we turn on the computer, we could say power it on with the computer and then minimize it. We're just going to leave it like this. We don't want it to run there. We can reset the current device. We can open the application folder, and we can reset all devices. Simple as that. We can check for updates right here, but we're on the current version. Device. This is going to tell us our device, our serial number, our automatic screen turn off, which I have set to 5 minutes, but you can pretty much do anything. We've got the button brightness, and then we have 2 buttons here. One is in Chinese. I cannot read it, and if I press it, I don't know what it does. But the other one is replace the boot login. We'll leave that as it is. You'll probably won't even touch that. So next one is the scenes area. So we can add scenes. So our default scene, we can say, okay, the default scene is for my Slack or for my messages or for whatnot. So it's basically an app. So if you have something like Photoshop on your Mac or your PC, you can open up the Photoshop buttons, or you can open up the whatever program. They have a limited set of programs. Now, keep in mind, they have a limited set of programs, but mostly sticking with the Fifine stuff, this is going to work perfect. And unfortunately, I don't have any of the Fifine microphones or anything like that I can control with that, but I can set this up for that if I need to. All right. From here, we went through the settings. We actually created a scene here. Let's go back here. Let's go ahead and bring some buttons into life here. So we have the standard ones, but I also have a couple ones that I've downloaded here. And once again, if you go into the App Store, you just basically go to the plugins area. And then these are all the plugins that you can get. There are a couple plugins like this one right here, vMix Control. I can hit install, but I don't think it's going to do anything because vMix can't be installed on a Mac, but I have it on my PC, and I could switch this over and use this with my PC. And I did do that, and it does a decent job on it, as opposed to like a Stream Deck, which has a little bit more functionality to it. But I could set up the buttons without a problem. So, but as you can see, we can do Final Cut Pro and everything. So it looks like you can install the buttons from the PC onto the Mac and the Mac onto the PC, which might be completely useless for whatever you need. But if you need them, you have it. Plus Zoom plugins, Shadow Play, YouTube Ticker, which I have loaded up here, but I don't see it. A weather ticker. We already have a weather ticker on here. Let's go back here, and oh, there's the vMix right there. So we can set that up. Here's the weather. Let's just put in the weather query right on the bottom. And so it's just like with the Stream Deck. You drag and drop, and there it is right there. And if we look at our Stream Deck or our Ampligame, we have the weather button right here. What does it do? Nothing, because we haven't set it up yet. So let's go back here and take a look. So what kind of weather? We can get it from weather.ap, and we can say, it says disabled right now. So we'll enter the city, and I'm in Madison, Wisconsin. So we'll go like that. And then we'll hit the, self-populated. That's great. So we don't need to hit renew. It's telling me the temperature. And if I look over here to the button system, yes, I'm seeing the weather and the temperature right there. Great. No problems. All right, let's go ahead and bring some other stuff on. There's the YouTube ticker that I installed, so let's put that right next to it. Now, this one, we might have to get information. So let's see, we'll have to put in HTTPS youtube.com/Geekazine. Geekazine and saying live stream or latest video or the latest video. Let's just do latest video. We can bring in the channel logo and on press open the latest videos. So, and we can update that every 30 minutes. So if I'm sitting here and I say, I wonder what's going on over at Geekazine, I can press this button. Let's just do open channel here. So we've got that. We can go over to the settings and we can set a local file. We can do a screen capture or a screen setting. Over here, I changed that to open channel, by the way, but we can also change the logo through the setting here. We have the ability to create pages. So if we hit the plus button and we go to page 2, now we have an empty Fifine deck. And if we look over here, we're seeing that our button deck is empty as opposed to page 1. If I go back over there we go. We have our buttons here. I can bring in a couple previous and next page. So I'll bring that in here and I'll bring in next page here. And now if I go next page, I've got nothing. So on the second page, what I can do is I can go previous page and next page, just like that. So I bring that back. There we are. And of course, if I go over here and I hit the next page, it'll go to the second page. If I hit the previous page, it goes to the first page. The one thing that I'm noticing here, I don't know if you see this, how well do you see this, but the buttons don't really wrap around the whole button. There's a little bit of margin around it. And of course, they've got tapered edges as well. So even though it's bigger than a Stream Deck button, the graphic is going to be small, just the same size as a Stream Deck button would be. So keep that in mind. But as you can see, they're full size. They wrap around the whole part of the button here. So we have our previous page and our next page to go from page 1 to page 2. So that's some of these options that we have. We also have create a folder. So we'll bring that over here. Here's a folder. And of course, if we go in here, that's going to take us to another folder. And if we see it on the Ampligame, we'll see that right there. That's the folder. If we press it, that goes into the foldered page, and that takes us back to the first page right there. So we have pages, we have folds. So you can do a whole ton of buttons simply through this system here. All right, we have that. That's through the Fifine control deck. We can change the brightness. We can go to different pages on the control deck, or we can go into sleep mode, things like that. So we've got the toolbox, which brings up, we can bring up a website. So let's do that. We'll bring that over here. And then we'll just say Geekazine. And then it looks like tab doesn't work. So we'll have to mouse over here. So if you have vision problems, that is a small little issue right there. And of course, we can go to Geekazine.com. And look at that. It populated my logo right there. That's awesome. And I'm assuming that's the icon for the website. So I populated that. That's pretty cool. We can do mouse events. We can do hotkey switches. And so we can create some batch files out of here to whatever we need the batch file to do. Audio player, simple as that. If we want to play or stop audio, let's go ahead and bring those controls in. So there's the play audio. There's the stop audio. And keep in mind, once again, if you want to change those icons, you just hit that little gear towards the bottom and then change the file to whatever you want. And you can actually bring up different things like Siri. And so you can bring that in there. And of course, when I'm assuming if I touch that, yeah, it's bringing up the app to talk to her. We can launch programs from here. So let's do a launch pad, and then we can say open if we want to. We can leave it blank. Moving and deleting files and copying files are just the same. We can go ahead and we do control or right click on a mouse, and we can copy and paste, or we can delete it as we go. So we can put our computer to sleep. We can go to the next track. So let's go ahead and do this. Let's move her over here, and then let's put in our controls over here. So next track, we'll just do next track, previous track right there. And of course, as you see with our Ampligame, we're seeing those buttons right there. And then we might need a mute. So let's put the mute right there. Okay, perfect. Next up, we got operation flow. So we can, let's see, let's put that there. So what that does is that will create a carousel of images, and we can put those images through here. That puts it through a separate page, basically a big batch file. So we can play, we can stop, and we have the ability to do volume, and we also have the ability to time it all out. So we can add in a time through milliseconds on the bottom. And of course, we can also move this around, and we can probably just delete it using the delete key. So that's the carousel. Let's go ahead and delete that, and we won't have it ask again, and we'll say okay. So we got a few different operations through the flow. We got, if you're using OBS Studio, that comes native there. And then of course you can load in some of the apps. So as you can see, we've got a few apps loaded here, which instantly shows up here. And if I wanted to go and switch scenes, I just switched it over to the default scene, and we've got no buttons there. Now, as for the lighting on this thing, I don't see anything that says, hey, that's controlling these lights on this thing. The only thing that I know that can control it is that button in the back. And if we press it, that'll change the color right there. So we have a nice pulsating blue to purple to red, different colors pulsating. So, I don't see a way that you could actually turn it off from here. And of course, if you know of a way, let me know in the comments below. Absolutely. So, but bottom line, that is how it works. Now, here's some pros and cons when it comes to using the Fifine Ampligame. First one is, it is basically what you see is what you get. You can actually create some buttons for that, like we saw with the YouTube, but you gotta, of course, keep the upkeep on them. Of course, you have to talk with Fifine so you can introduce it into the store as the application. The Fifine control deck does not have an open API. So whereas like a Stream Deck can use something like a BitFocus companion to control the buttons in a different way for a remote computer control or anything like that, basically what you see is what you get on the controls. There is no other software that can control this deck. And, you know, I've tried connecting them to all of the different types of software that can control a Stream Deck. And of course, without that open API, it cannot see nor talk to the device. I've also plugged this into some hardware devices that will also accept a Stream Deck. And once again, without the fact that it cannot talk with the device itself, because there's no API connection to work with, it basically just stays at that first home screen. But like I said, if you have a Fifine system that includes microphones and headsets and audio interfaces and everything like that, you'll be able to then put it onto this guy right here, and then have all those buttons in a one-stop shop. Get it ready for a podcast, get it ready for a live stream or anything like that, and be able to control it from here. It's limited button, but you know, once again, it's a great alternative to a Stream Deck if you just want some basic controls. And of course, the device is about $65, depending on if you get the black model or the white model. There is a difference between the two prices. So the real question is, what are you going to use your Ampligame for? Let me know in the comments below over at Geekazine.com, youtube.com/Geekazine, where you can like, subscribe, and hit that bell notification so you know when the next video comes out. Until next time, my name is Jeffrey Powers. Thanks a lot for watching. You guys geek out and control your systems with Ampligame by Fifine. Of course, Geekazine has a whole bunch of merch, including t-shirts and hoodies. Like, for instance, the Geekazine logo hoodie. We got some great t-shirts, including 80s Jesus Saved Me, Guardian of the Geekery, the original Geek AI t-shirt. We have a couple variations of this one. And then I Like Geek Butts and I Cannot Lie. There are several more and more that are being added to the Geekazine merch page, so you can check that out over at Teespring. If you're on YouTube, you'll see those links below, and then over at amazon.com/shop/Geekazine. I appreciate that very much because it does support the channel.